Have you ever heard a sound in the dead of night that made your blood run cold? A whisper that sounded just like someone you know, even though you're completely alone. Tonight, we're venturing into the heart of a chilling American legend. One that preys on your deepest fears and uses your own senses against you. We're talking about the Pope Lick Monster. Deep in the woods of Louisville, Kentucky, there's an old, rusted train bridge. Locals call it the Pope Lick Trestle. It cuts through the night sky like a scar, stretching high above the creek below. It's a place steeped in shadow and whispers. They say if you're brave enough, or perhaps foolish enough, to walk it after dark, you might just meet him. The stories paint a terrifying picture, a grotesque creature, a twisted hybrid of man and goat. Some legends claim it's an escapee from a derailed circus train, a tormented soul forever bound to the trestle. Others whisper of a darker origin, a demonic entity that uses hypnosis and mimicry to lure its victims to their doom. It's said to hunt by sound, turning your own voice, your own fear, into its weapon. The legend became so notorious that the railway company and local officials have repeatedly warned people to stay away. Not just because of the monster, but because the bridge is an active railway line, and the real danger has claimed lives. But still, people go. I have to admit, I was a skeptic. I love a good ghost story, but I didn't truly believe in monsters. Not in the real world. But that all changed one cold October night. A night that still haunts my waking thoughts. My friends, fueled by cheap beer and teenage bravado, dared me to go up there. It was a rite of passage, something to prove we weren't afraid. We'd all heard the tales, the goat man, the mimicking voices, the hypnotic stare that freezes you in place right before a train thunders by. We laughed it off. It was just a story, right? We parked the car near an old, forgotten trailhead. The only light came from our cheap flashlights, their beams dancing nervously through the dense, dark woods. The air was heavy, thick with the smell of damp earth, rotting leaves, and the faint, metallic scent of rust carried on the wind. Every snap of a twig, every rustle in the undergrowth made us jump. The further we walked, the quieter it became. The usual nighttime chorus of insects and frogs faded into an unnerving silence. It felt like the forest itself was holding its breath. And then we heard it, the low, mournful groan of the train tracks. A sound that seemed to come from the bridge itself, as if it were alive and in pain. When we finally broke through the tree line and reached the clearing, the sight stole my breath. There it was, the trestle. It was even more imposing in person than in the photos. A skeletal silhouette against the bruised purple sky, disappearing into a fog so thick it looked like a solid, swirling wall. It seemed to stretch on forever, a bridge to nowhere. The silence was absolute. My friends tried to break the tension, shouting into the fog, their voices echoing back unnaturally. They were trying to be tough, but I could see the fear in their eyes. The same fear that was clawing its way up my own throat. I couldn't shake the feeling that we were being watched. It was a primal, gut-wrenching certainty that we were not alone. Something was out there, in the woods, in the fog, waiting. I stood there at the base of that massive iron structure, my neck craned back, staring up at the beams that vanished into the darkness. The air grew colder. The world seemed to stop. Even the wind died down, and in that suffocating silence, I heard it. A voice. It was faint at first, a whisper on the edge of hearing. But it was familiar, chillingly familiar. It sounded exactly like my mother. "Come up here, honey," it called, the voice laced with a desperate urgency. "Please, help me." My heart stopped. A wave of ice washed over me because my mother had been dead for 10 years. I whipped my head around to look at my friends, my eyes wide with panic. "Did you hear that?" I stammered. They just stared back at me, confused. They hadn't heard a thing. They were still joking, shoving each other, completely oblivious to the voice that was now echoing in my head. And then it came again, louder this time, clearer. It sounded like it was right behind me. "Come, see me. I'm waiting for you." It wasn't just a voice anymore. It was a pull, a command. My body moved without my permission. My feet, as if guided by an unseen force, started towards the trestle's access ladder. My friends yelled my name, but their voices sounded distant, muffled, as if coming from another world. The only thing that was real was my mother's voice, pleading with me. I started climbing. My hands gripped the cold, rusted metal rungs. Every step I took, the ladder groaned and protested under my weight. The fog, which had been lingering at the top of the bridge, seemed to descend, swirling round me, clinging to my clothes like a wet shroud. The higher I climbed, the thicker it got. By the time my feet touched the wooden railway ties on top of the trestle, I couldn't see more than 5 feet in front of me. The world was reduced to a tiny circle of murky light from my flickering flashlight. My friends' shouts had faded away completely. I was alone, suspended between the earth and the sky, wrapped in a blanket of silent, white fog. And that's when I saw it. At the very edge of my flashlight's beam, a shape began to resolve out of the mist. It was tall, stooped over with an unnatural, broken posture. As it straightened up, I saw them. 2 horns, dark and twisted, that curved up towards the sky like scorched branches. It took a step forward, and the light caught its eyes. They weren't eyes. They were burning embers, glowing with a malevolent red light, and they were fixed on me, unblinking. It tilted its head, and a smile stretched across its impossibly wide, inhuman mouth. A smile that was all teeth. The legends told me the Pope Lick monster lured people onto the bridge with voices. That part was true. But what the stories left out, what no one ever warned me about, is that once it sees you, once it has your voice, it never, ever stops calling your name. I can still hear it every night in the quiet moments just before I fall asleep. That voice, my mother's voice, whispering from the darkness. "Come back," it says. "I'm still waiting." Thank you so much for joining me on this terrifying journey into the legend of the Pope Lick monster. If you enjoyed this story and want to explore more dark legends and mysteries with me, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Let me know in the comments if you've ever had an experience you can't explain. Stay safe, and whatever you do, stay off the tracks.